algorithm writing and things like that will be really important for the kids of the future generation. And I believe that not every student will choose to become a professional coder when they grow. I believe that a basic coding understanding will make them better thinkers, leaders, creators, and dreamers.
Thank you for finding us. Like us, you are the growing gang of curious people keen to understand what the future holds. I, Eddie Ivel, am your host for the Change I Am Possible podcast, a platform in a community for disruptors, innovators, entrepreneurs, change, policymakers, impact investors, and dreamers such as yourself working on shaping a coming tomorrow. My effort will be to probe and ask the most contextual and relevant questions, answers that add value, even at the risk of being judged. The fourth industrial revolution is upon us, and exponential technology stands to disrupt all industry verticals. The choice we make today will chart the trajectory of a civilization. Future demands us to be brave and bold, so let's walk together as one into this new world, a world of all-encompassing possibilities, leveraging technology, the tool that's redefining what it means to be a human. So let's challenge a traditional linear mindset. Let's challenge the word impossible, because if you break it down, the word itself says, I am possible. So let's dive into the future with a guest for today. Samaira Mehta is an 11-year-old prodigy. She's a passionate coder and entrepreneur. She's the founder CEO of CoderBunnyz, a board game to learn coding. Her board game currently is being used in over 106 schools. She's a keynote speaker. She's held over 60 workshops, taught over 2,000 kids, and was also recognized by the White House by the then First Lady, Michelle Obama, for her work. I wish you enjoyed this conversation. Hi Samaira, thank you for being part of Change I Am Possible podcast. So you're the youngest guest I've had on my show. You're a coder, successful entrepreneur, and the founder of CoderBunnyz, a board game for kids, grown-ups, which introduces coding in a fun way. So can you share a brief intro about you and your board game CoderBunnyz?
Sure. Well, my name is Samaira Mehta. I'm 11 years old, and I've created CoderBunnyz and Codermindz, and they're both board games intended towards teaching kids some of the concepts of computer programming and artificial intelligence in a fun and exciting way, so that all kids can start learning these very advanced concepts from an early age. So with this, I have a goal of helping 1 billion kids get into coding by the time I graduate from college, and that would be around 2030. So when we have 1 billion kids in code, I've been doing workshops at places all across the world with the goal of teaching, more and more kids how to code. And at the same time, I've been training people to take these workshops as well. And so they can start their little, own chapters of the CoderBunnyz coding clubs or things like that. Recently, I've been partnering with companies like Facebook, Microsoft, Intel, and Walmart. And what they've been doing is they've been donating these CoderBunnyz and Codermindz games to the underprivileged libraries and schools across the world, so we can work towards making coding more accessible in each and every corner.
Girls your age are busy playing or happy with what life has to offer. You have broken the linear pattern and clearly have an understanding of things to come. So coding will almost become a necessary tool one will need to have to take your life, business or career forward. So when did you realize that you have an affinity for coding, and how and when did you build CoderBunnyz?
Sure. So I was actually introduced to coding at the age of 6 when my dad introduced it to me with a prank. So this prank involved computer science, and I think that's when I first realized that I wanted to learn coding. But at that time, I didn't want to learn coding because I enjoyed coding, but I wanted to learn it so that I can prank my friends in a similar way. So by learning, some of these coding concepts and how to actually create some of these jokes and some of these pranks, I realized how much fun coding actually was. And from there, I actually started looking into coding for the actual reason of coding because I found it interesting. And from there, I just kept on exploring. And from there, I started talking to my friends about how cool it was, this new coding thing is. But I saw that many of them didn't actually agree with me. They thought coding was something boring. But I didn't think that was what it is. So I came up with a fun way to introduce coding to all kids, and that was through a board game. So that's basically how first I got the idea of creating CoderBunnyz.
So you do workshops, teach coding at schools, speak at conference. So how has the reaction been from teachers, grown-ups to your sessions, workshops and conferences?
So, I love doing workshops. Workshops are probably one of my most favorite things that I've been doing in this entire journey. And I think the reason I like it is because I enjoy like when kids write their first code and they see, it actually is working, they can actually achieve their goal. I think that brings them a lot of happiness. And just seeing the smiles on kids' faces after they write their first code has probably been my biggest accomplishment yet. So, I've been doing these workshops at all these places like libraries and schools, in big companies, and I really enjoy introducing kids to the concepts of coding and transforming something as boring as coding into something fun for them.
When did the transition from coding to entrepreneur happen? Was becoming an entrepreneur part of the plan after you started coding?
Yeah, so when I first started doing workshops, actually, I was just doing it for fun. I only had maybe two or three prototypes, just original copies in hand, and I was just doing it, for fun to get more and more kids excited about coding. But as I started doing more and more of these workshops, people started asking me where they could buy the game. So I was just like, I'm just doing this for fun. I'm not in mass production or anything, and these games, really, I'm not just selling them. But a lot of parents started telling me, how much they wanted to buy the game. So I realized maybe it's time to get into mass production. So basically, that was their original feedback, and that the parents' feedback is basically what motivated me to even get the game into mass production. And once we did that, I started reaching out to places like schools and different teachers started reaching out and they said, can I buy these games for my classrooms? I'm seeing all the workshops you've been doing and things like that, and I want to try this coding thing in my classroom because, STEM and computer science is starting to become so important in our day-to-day lives. I want to introduce them to, some of my students as well. So the teachers started buying the game and they started using it a lot. In fact, one of the teachers, actually various teachers, used coding as their opening thing for the day. For example, one of the teachers close by to where I live who use the game, they use it every day to start off their Tuesday morning. It's like CoderBunnyz coding, and that's how you start off with Tuesdays. So from there, they start playing various levels of the game and expanding on their coding skills. And then later on, maybe in the day, they'll go onto an actual computer and type some real code. And from there, all the concepts will actually be familiar for them because they've learned all of that in CoderBunnyz. So basically, teachers love this game because it can introduce kids to the concepts of computer programming when they're used in real code.
The world is changing, evolving very fast, and technology is growing exponentially, impacting all businesses, industry verticals, and also the job market and education industry. So globally, companies are laying off their workforces due to automation, and the newer job demand is largely of programmers, coders, data scientists. And to stay relevant in this fast changing world, reskill and upskill has become a necessity tool. So, how important is programming now, and do you think coding skills should be introduced as part of the curriculum from school? And is Coda Bunnies available in India?
First of all, I think that's a great question. I think coding is really starting to become the math and the science and that writing of the next generation. When we think of day-to-day subjects, we think of math, science, maybe writing, literature, English. But I believe coding is actually starting to become as important as some of these basic day-to-day subjects. And I think it's because I think that coding, it's more than just creating code to solve a problem. It's about understanding the steps and finding a solution to a problem. So I think that that's the main idea behind coding and algorithm writing and things like that will be really important for the kids of the future generation. And I believe that not every student will choose to become a professional coder when they grow. I believe that a basic coding understanding will make them better thinkers, leaders, creators, and dreamers in this next generation. And yes, CoderBunnyz is available in India through Amazon International, and with CoderBunnyz available in basically every corner of the world. My goal is to, help people create their international chapters of the CoderBunnyz Coding Club, working towards my goal of helping 1 billion kids in the world to gain access to STEM and coding tools.
You spoke about CoderBunnyz, but you also have another board game called Codermindz. So could you please explain a little bit about what Codermindz board game is all about and what does it do?
Yeah, so Codermindz is actually a board game that introduces kids to some of the concepts of artificial intelligence. I believe, just like coding, artificial intelligence is starting to become a very important tool for the kids of the future generation. I believe in artificial intelligence, it's helping us expand to this whole other, you can think of it as a whole other world where there's so many new ways that we can make things that take up human time, such as washing the dishes or folding the laundry. If we can help create artificial intelligence tools to do the things that humans should not be wasting their time on, then we humans can focus on the things we're actually good at, things like emotion and other things where we can actually have to connect, because AI can never replace that sort of feeling. So I believe AI can open up a greater future, a greater world for everyone. So with with Codermindz, what I'm doing is it's actually the world's first ever artificial intelligence board game. So it'll introduce kids to some of the concepts of AI, so that when they go on and look into some of this actual AI field, all these concepts will be more familiar. Just like when you learn some of the coding concepts from Coderbunnyz.
As an entrepreneur, you are redesigning education by making it gamified and fun. So kids till the age of 7 to 8 are highly neuroplastic. So what I mean by that is that their cognitive capacity of absorbing information and retention is exceptionally high. And India is a huge country, and the education system, I believe, is completely up for disruption. So are you talking to institutes and schools or partners here in India to introduce CoderBunnyz?
Yeah, fabulous question. I think basically to bring CoderBunnyz into India, I think it starts out by creating the international coding clubs or international chapters. So right now I've been doing workshops, right? But I can only travel to so many places at once. I can only do so many workshops. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually training people in places like India to do their own workshops, and by teaching them how to train kids and how to carry out the workshops. I'm hoping that this can help create some of the international coding clubs, and with the help and support of the community, students can come in, and what they can do is they can try out the game, and they can actually be introduced to some of these concepts of coding. And I'm basically looking for all of you all to come and help and partner so we can make this big goal accessible in places like India.
Besides CoderBunnyz and Codermindz, you also run a podcast where you interview tech leaders called Cookies with CoderBunnyz. So could you share a little details about your podcast to our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So Cookies with CoderBunnyz is an interview series that I started where I interview all sorts of people like, just educators or entrepreneurs, tech leaders, librarians, and just individual people who make an impact in our community, so that, kids like me can learn from their ways of solving problems and basically just changing the world.
What's the future vision for CoderBunnyz?
Right. So as of now, as I said, 1 billion kids in code. That's one of my biggest goals. And just, reaching out to more and more people and really making this goal possible. I think that's one of my biggest goals as of now in terms of CoderBunnyz and Codermindz. But one of my other goals is actually just making it accessible in India, because, I believe pretty much like 200 million or so of the kids are actually just in India. So if we can make this CoderBunnyz and Codermindz tools accessible in India, then we can cover a great part of my 1 billion kids in code goal.
It feels great to see an Indian girl achieving so much at such an early age. It makes me proud, and I'm sure all the listeners feel the same way. So I wish you the very best for the journey. Keep pushing the boundary. You are a classic example of impossible is nothing. In fact, the show's premises is that impossible is just a mindset. So that's the reason it's called Change I Am Possible. So exponential technologies is augmenting mankind and is challenging and chipping away at all that we used to term impossible at one point in time. So now tell me, I'm not a coder. So with CoderBunnyz, this game of yours, is this just for kids or even adults who have no knowledge of coding?
No, so CoderBunnyz is basically for anyone who wants to learn to code. The age range is from 4 to 104, so anyone at any age can learn how to code. And the idea, I like to keep it simple so that people with absolutely no prior programming experience can learn some of these basic concepts. So with CoderBunnyz, the idea is simple. You have a bunny, and you have basic code cards. So the code cards consist of moving forward, turning left, turning right, and jumping. And basically, the goal of your bunny is to, move through a maze where there are things like puddles and fences, and eat its colored carrot, and reach the destination. So the idea is really simple. It has to do just those and use this basic code card to do it. But you can expand on that with more advanced code cards that consist of things like functions or repeat loops. You can learn some of the other major programming concepts, and just by arranging these cards in a different manner, or playing it in a completely different way, kids and adults can learn pretty much all of the major concepts of computer programming.
When I was your age, my world revolved around games and having fun. Academics wasn't something that excited me. In fact, I dropped out of college post 10th picking a creative career. But the last few years, I've educated myself for free. I read and consume content available freely on the internet. So, do you think that the future of education is free, fun, social, interactive, and gamified?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. As of now, I believe, we are pretty much on the standard of math and science and, a few other things. But I believe we can slowly reach a time in the education field where there will be computer science, there'll be artificial intelligence, and all these things. Because as of now, I believe the job opportunities, as you said, they're becoming towards data science or artificial intelligence or software engineers or things like that. They're looking for people in this field. So if schools can start teaching kids about some of these concepts from an earlier age, then when they grow up, they can think of some of these options as actual career options. So, as of now, I think places in the world are slowly starting to incorporate things like computer science, STEM, AI, and data science, machine learning, all of that. But I think as time goes, schools, educators, and all of those people will start to realize the real importance of this in the actual day-to-day world. So I think computer science is the future. I think if you know some of the basics of computer science, you'll be pretty much able to do anything. It will give you a basic understanding of how to solve problems and how to apply them to the real world. I think it's really important for kids to learn to code, and I think that it'll give them a better understanding of basically anything.
Educational debt is a global problem. Parents are being overburdened, overpressurized in the goal of providing quality education to the kids. And education is getting expensive by the day. So on the other hand, we also have on the internet something called as MOOCs, massive open online courses. So do you see the brick and mortar traditional education system making way for democratized online free education system?
I think as of now, it's gonna become like big towards digital versions. I think as of now we use things like basic textbooks, but even those textbooks that we use for things like math and science will be transformed online. But on more of the computer science field, the reason I decided to create a board game was with the goal of getting more and more kids involved, and by working together and develop social skills of learning how to work together and cooperate. But I think towards the future there are going to be so many courses available. I mean, there are already so many courses available that can help students in practically any field. Many people may have heard of Khan Academy, and that's a great source where people can basically just type up anything and they'll find up various videos on how how that thing works. So I think slowly it's going to be transformed into a digital world where basically things you just search them up and you find the answer. But I believe things are already starting to be like that. If you have any question, we don't hesitate to use Google to search it up. And I think, that'll improve the convenience and things like that in the future as well.
I'm quoting Greta Thunberg over here, the UN speech that she delivered. People are dying, ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? That speech was super hard hitting. It still gives me goosebumps. And it makes you want to pause and think, Where are we going wrong as adults? Why are we destroying the world for our personal growth? Do you feel that as adults we have let you and your generation down?
I think grown-ups play a huge part in what kids become in the future, especially as parents. I believe, parents are, the people who first got their kids. I think the whole reason I chose to, do all this is because both my mom and my dad had always given me options. They were always like, they never forced me to do anything. However, they always provided me the options to do what I please. And I think, that played a huge part in basically who I am today. Um, but at the same time, I also believe that with the parents in the education field, I believe that they can support us, they can guide us, they can show us various opportunities. But at the same time, I believe that kids also need to learn to start things on their own. I believe that maybe sometimes kids can bring better ideas to the table than any adults can ever. But I think a good balance of both is really what we need in this field.
Thank you, Samaira. It was a pleasure talking to you and understanding what you're building, your entrepreneurial journey, Coderbunnyz, Codermindz. I wish you the very best for it. I wish you lots of success. So, any last words to our listeners?
Yeah, I would just like to say, keep on dreaming big and always follow your imagination. Not don't be limited by what other people limit you to do. I believe, people will always limit you in life. They'll say you can do this, but you can't do that, but you can do this. But I believe those are all just voices. I've learned over time to follow your imagination, the people who guide you in the right directions, your parents, mentors, teachers, and I think that's what would really take you far.
Thank you.